Hey guys, it's Gavin here from the Order of Money. And in today's video, I want to talk about three things that rich and wealthy people do that the average person does not. And these are things that are totally accessible to do for literally anyone. And by just doing this one thing alone, it will put you in the top 5% of people in the world who are taking control of their lives and to be able to change their personal and generational and families' trajectory both from now into the future. So, the first thing that wealthy people do is they think long term. Most people don't think long term. When I say long term, I'm talking about a year plus. I know when I was doing sales, I remember I would ask a question. I would ask, where do you want to be in a year from now? And every time I asked that question, every single time, the person would say, wow, like, I don't know, I got to think about it, right? Just by thinking where I want to be in a year, for sure, if you think about 3 to 5 years, have that kind of vision and clarity of where you want to get to. What winds up happening, and I'll go into more detail on this in another video because I think this is important. You're actually training your subconscious. There's a part of your brain called the RAS, the reticular activating system, which and what it will do is we'll start noticing different things in your environment that will start kind of moving you slowly towards in that direction. So by being able to think long term and plan, write it down, be clear on it, you're that much more likely to fulfill your goals. So that includes, where do you want to live? How much money do you want to make? What do you want your net worth to be? Right? Where do you want to? If you're, whatever the issue might be, just be clear on what it is, and you're that much more likely going to achieve it. So that's number one. Number one is being able to think long term and to be clear about what it is that you want long term. Number two is focusing, particularly when it comes to money and wealth, really educating yourself and being aware of money. So one of the kind of really weird things, if you think about in society, is people are kind of trained not to think about money so much. When people go to college, they learn a profession, and they are, and particularly if they're working as an employee, they'll negotiate a salary, and then like that's it. They like every month the salary shows up in their bank account and they swipe the credit card. Maybe they're budgeting, maybe they're thinking about it, but they're not really thinking in terms of like what is this money that I actually have? What's the value that this money can actually give me long term? Someone, for example, who works in sales, is able to understand the nuances of like what's the value, and they'll be able to sway and negotiate what the value is. Usually people walk into a store, they'll see the price of something and say, okay, that's the price. But people who may be a bit more savvy might go price shop. They might be more aware of kind of the savviness of what's going on, around them to be able to maintain that money much more. One of the things I talk about a lot is the fact that money is really energy. It's the energy of basically your economic work, and this is what it is. So it's not one of the things really in any business is how much money can be generated, but also how much can be saved and managed on the operational side as well. And it's true for every person individually as well in their own personal life. What do I mean? Is that it's very easy. Let's say someone thinks they have a high-paying job, I'll make a lot of money, and everything will be great. But if they don't have the discipline to be able to focus on their outflows as well, they will wind up, even if someone's making $1,000 a month versus someone's making $20,000 a month, at the end of the day, they will wind up with exactly the same thing, which is going to be zero. If they're not able to control their expenses, just because, again, one of the things that's kind of interesting about this, again, thinking about money as energy, people will think about if I buy something, then if I buy something, then it will bring me emotional fulfillment. Not realizing that what you're purchasing, it's not going to bring you emotional fulfillment. Like focusing on your emotional issues will bring you emotional fulfillment. Buying something will not. And this goes back, even kind of case number one is that, it goes back to planning because, again, I work in marketing. I understand how the game is played. Our entire environment is so designed to think short term gratification. And this training is really kind of detrimental. It's detrimental to long term thinking. It's also detrimental to you being able to hold on to the money that you want to have. So make sure you really understand and study money. And again, if you're watching this channel, like and subscribe for more content like this to kind of really educate you about money, understanding what it is and what you should be doing to protect and grow your wealth long term. The better off you're going to be. There's a reason I say there's a reason why money is not taught in school. So number three, and this is kind of like it's really like a two B kind of thing, which is really understand how to store your wealth. So we're living in a time right now, which is really it's I would say it's unprecedented, except it's not because history has taught us that it's just the same thing repeating over and over again. We, like people in the United States has been the world reserve, or the United States dollar has been the world reserve currency for the past 100 years. And and the economies have been great. Like the world is flourishing. The problem today is that not the problem. Really, it was by design. The underlying value of the U.S. dollar is debt, right? And what is debt? Debt is I'm going to pay you now for a future production that you're going to do, right? So I would give you $100,000 now to go build a factory. I'll give you $100,000 now to go build a software, knowing that once that software is built, we'll be able to make $1 million, right? That's essentially how the U.S. dollar works today. Right? They print money, saying that we put money out into the economy, more production will happen, and then we'll be able to generate more tax revenue, and the economy will grow, and we'll continue to kind of have that world GDP. The problem with the U.S. is that the U.S., particularly today, has become much more of a service-based economy as opposed to actually making goods. There's a reason why if you look at the top five companies on the stock exchange, they're all primarily software companies. There's some hardware in there. Obviously, Apple's one of them, but Apple's real thing is their software, right? The technology or the hardware is very nicely designed, but it's the software that makes everything run. Same thing with Amazon. It's an e-commerce company, right? Operations are great. This is what I was talking about. Amazon really kind of optimize their operations, but the real thing that's valuable for them is their digital real estate on the internet by having one of the biggest e-com stores online. So what this means in terms of like where the U.S. is, like 85% of the goods in the world are made in China today. China is actually so just to understand kind of on trajectory. If you want to kind of learn more about this, Daniela DiMartino Booth, great book, Fed Up, someone worth listening to. She describes or says that basically that the China was on track to pass the U.S. as the number one biggest economy by 2030, I believe. Since the pandemic and the slowdown of the Western economies, that's gone down now to 2025. Once China becomes a world reserve or becomes the biggest economy, they're going to say, hey, listen, we don't want the U.S. dollar to be the world reserve currency anymore, and that means the U.S. dollar is toast. So if you want to start planning, again, I'm not a financial advisor, it's not financial advice, this is all education, but if you want to start planning for this, for this, and look at what the wealthy people are doing, people are buying up real estate, like BlackRock is buying up all the residential real estate in the United States because they understand that the U.S. dollar goes to trash. They need to be able to hold on to hard assets. I think that one of the best hard assets you can own is Bitcoin. I got to do and I'm saying this now, I got to do a much longer video talking about the benefits of Bitcoin as a hard asset, as something that you can really use to store your wealth long term and protect yourself from anything that's going to happen with the changes kind of in the world. It's going to happen, and the reason I know it's going to happen is that you look at every single empire in history. I was just reading this literally this morning about the Roman Empire, and this is what the Roman Empire would do. The Roman Empire would debase their currency. There used to be that people were trading in gold. Gold was kind of like the standard thing that people would trade in. And then what they did is they started to make coins. So one of the benefits of coins is that you could be issued by a government instead of having kind of weigh everything out. Someone's like, I want to buy a cow. Cow's 3 ounces of gold. You have to rely on the scaled accuracy of the merchant you're buying from. It's a whole problem. By having a coin issued by a government, everything's standardized, right? So we know that one coin is 1 ounce of gold, let's say, or 2 ounces of gold, or whatever the number was. And what wound up happening is over time, they started to make those coins have less actual gold in there. They put other metals in there. They started shaving them off. There was a thing they used to do. They would put the coins in like a bag and shake it around so that some of the shaving stuff would come down, and they would take this like gold dust, and then they'd be able to melt it down and create new gold. Like all these little kind of things in terms of kind of currency debasement. And that's what's happening to all the money printing that's going on. People think it's great. I'm getting a check for $1,200, $3,000 from the government, right? But again, you see with inflation that money is going to go much, much less as time goes on, right? It all comes down to purchasing power. It doesn't matter the amount of dollars you have. It comes down to purchasing power and the ability to hold on to your economic energy. If you're working and you're getting paid in dollars, and somebody somewhere else can devalue your dollar, that's theft. It's actual theft. So really, that's what's really important to understand. So again, 3 things wealthy people do that everyone should start thinking about today. Think long term, educate yourself about money, and then start taking the actions needed to protect yourself from inflation, from currency debasement by the government. And you're going to be again you'll be in the 5% of people in the world just because no one does this. So that's it. That's the video today. I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. I will keep an eye out for any comment that's made and respond to them personally. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. All right, see you later. Bye.